welcome to Career Bits, the podcast of the University Career Center at UNC Charlotte. I'm Jay, and today our topic is entrepreneurship. When you hear the word entrepreneurship, you may think of people like Oprah Winfrey or Jeff Bezos from Amazon or Elon Musk, or maybe even go back further and think of people like Thomas Edison and Henry Ford. But entrepreneurs come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, and they're really people that have ideas or innovations. There are people that want to take that idea to the next level, and they find a way to solve a problem that they don't see solved in that particular way somewhere in the marketplace. And at UNC Charlotte, we have a strong support system for entrepreneurs. And that's what today's episode is all about. You're going to hear from Ventureprise on campus. You're going to hear from a student who is also currently pursuing a master's degree here at UNC Charlotte, but is also an entrepreneur and how she interfaced with Ventureprise. And then you'll hear from two young entrepreneurs who graduated college just a couple of years ago, had a business they started in college, and now it has become their full-time job. And they'll talk to you about what all that means and things that you can do if you also have that entrepreneurial spirit or if you're just curious. So let's get started. Happy to welcome into Career Bits now, Interim Executive Director for Ventureprise at UNC Charlotte, Devin Collins. Devin, thanks for coming on the show.
Jay, absolutely. Excited to be here today.
So just start off with this very simple question that I know every student listening to this has. What the heck is Ventureprise?
Yeah, well, we're always trying to let students know about what we're doing here, but Ventureprise is the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center at UNC Charlotte. So we work with students, faculty, and community entrepreneurs and innovators and helping them move their ideas forward.
That's very cool. So give me an example of some of the things that you've done with students who've had an idea and have incubated it here on campus.
Yeah. So we talk about student ideas. It could be a business idea. It could be what we call a social entrepreneurial idea. So it could be political action, a nonprofit, basically any idea a student has where they see a problem, they want to go change something. So we kind of help them through that process. So we have a couple of programs. We have our iChallenge, which is an idea challenge we run every fall, which is where we give mentoring, cash prizes, and we help the students actually prepare to launch their idea. And then we have our innovation or venture challenge in the springtime, which is where we actively help the students launch their idea forward. So that's starting a company, starting a nonprofit, launching their web design company or whatever it might be, and actually helping them go out, find customers, find individuals that are willing to participate and really, take that idea forward.
I think that's outstanding that the university supports that kind of spirit. And I'm sure you work with students from across the board in majors and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got students from the College of Education to, computer science, engineering, business, psychology, history. It really runs the gamut. I think you'll find entrepreneurs in every major or innovators in every major.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get into next was what is it about innovators and entrepreneurs that separates them from people that just have like neat ideas, but then the ones that actually take it forward? What do you see as good traits, and what of people that are thinking about, should I go with this idea or not? What should they consider and think about?
Yeah, I think, there's people often think of the entrepreneur as, kind of what you see on like an Elon Musk or somebody you see on TV that's, this genius or this, has, a lot of money already or whatever.
Shark Tank, something like that.
Right. But I think, the reality is that most, entrepreneurs or people that have that entrepreneurial quality really are, individuals that recognize and look for, have a problem they see. They see an opportunity to go solve it. And they, typically they might be risk takers to a certain extent. They have, skills where they want to, go take action. So it's typically not someone that needs to be told what to do, but somebody that's really willing to go take action. And I'm going to go make this happen. And it's really, there's no, single type of entrepreneur, but, it's a variety of skills.
And so you mentioned working with faculty and students, but you also said that you work with community entrepreneurs as well. Talk a little bit about that and some of the cool things and people that have interfaced on campus and started up with us through Ventureprise.
Yeah, so we've had, we have a long history of working in the community with, various startup companies. I think, one of the ones we kind of look back at, so typically for an entrepreneurial venture, it takes, 10 years before going from, idea to being really successful. But one of the companies we look back at, and I think most people are familiar with Alexa and Amazon now, but that whole platform originally started with a company in Charlotte called Yap, and two brothers, the Jablikoffs, that were, one was a graduate of UNC Charlotte, and they started this company called Yap that took voice to text technology, and they created what became Alexa when Amazon went and bought that company. So we've had, big successes like that have started here in Charlotte, and we've had, a variety of, companies that have just grown up locally that have been a part of it.
And what got you involved in working with entrepreneurs and specifically Ventureprise here at UNC Charlotte?
So I got started in entrepreneurship as an undergraduate. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I went to a very entrepreneurial school as an entrepreneurial program. And then following grad school, I started a company, then got involved with another startup. So I've kind of been in the startup space 10 years before coming to UNC Charlotte, and been working here with entrepreneurs for the past 10 years or so.
So you've gone through that process yourself. You've done the pitch, all of that kind of thing. I think it's great that the university has a resource that will help students learn how to do that, because that's not something that necessarily gets taught in a class per se. I mean, that's stuff that you've got to pick up elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's plenty of classes on campus where you're learning about design thinking, about innovation. There's some entrepreneurial classes as well. But with entrepreneurship, it's very much often learning by doing. So you can, learn the basics, you can learn the planning, all of that in the classroom, but then it's really going out and doing something, because, entrepreneurship is taking action. It's how do you go take this idea, go solve that problem, build the solution you want.
Devin, tell folks how they can find out more about Ventureprise and interface with your office to maybe take their idea to the next level.
Yeah, so I mean, the best way to probably find out about our programming is at entrepreneurship.uncc.edu. We also, we're on Twitter, we're on various social media platforms, but the vast majority of our information is on our website. And we also work with a variety of partners across campus as well on different programs that they're running. So whether they're Epic's launching their innovator program and trying to find innovators in the energy field, or in the College of Computing when they're doing their hackathons, we're talking about their programming as well. So we try to promote each other across campus. So if it's happening somewhere on campus, you can probably find it on our website, which is entrepreneurship.uncc.edu.
Happy to welcome to Career Bits now Sahiti Maduri, a graduate student in cybersecurity here at UNC Charlotte, who is an entrepreneur, went through Ventureship, and is launching an app called All Vote, a voter information app, in October of 2020.
Thank you, Jay. So yeah, I am currently working on that app, and we're hoping to release on October.
Very cool. So let's start with the process as a young entrepreneur. Where did you come up with the idea, and how did you know it wasn't just like an idea that, oh, that sounds neat and you could talk to your friends about it? It was something you wanted to pursue and actually produce.
Yeah, so I think I came up with it around like my sophomore year. During that year, I was taking a class that was teaching like money and consumption, and in that course, the professor is also talking about like economic mobility, and so it kind of like stemmed from those concepts. So I really wanted to kind of I also had a passion for education at the same time, so I wanted to combine all of these and say, hey, there's people voting for federal elections, and they make a really big deal out of federal elections and presidential elections, which we have going on right now. But no one really, like, not many people pay attention to the local government elections, and those are actually the ones that are very like more impactful than the federal elections, I would say. So I really like didn't see the attention going on the local level elections. So I wanted to shift the focus and kind of educate people on, hey, did you know that there's these elections that you can vote for? Because I personally cannot vote. I'm not a citizen yet. So it's kind of like sad seeing that when you have the right to vote and you're not using it, it's just like, oh, come on, you know? So I came up with it around like sophomore year along those lines. That was the story of coming up with it.
You're so right in that local elections have much more direct impact on your life than the
Mm-hmm.
national ones. So the national ones will, over a longer period of time, will certainly
Mm-hmm.
influence things, but those local elections are really important. So you've hit on something there, and I think that's great that you've noticed that. So when you started putting the idea together, how did you connect with Ventureprise on campus?
Yeah, so at the same time, parallelly, I was connected to Ventureprise because I'm just a very much like I've always loved entrepreneurship and the concept of coming up with the idea and building it from scratch. So I've always had that going on, and I kind of met Laura and Devin freshman year, and I had this idea, and so I was like, I never really went through with Ventureprise. I went through with another idea, but during one of the Ventureprise events, I met somebody who had a really similar idea, and then I never really fell through with the idea that I came up with, and then it sounded really similar, and then I started working on it. So Ventureprise was kind of like the meeting spot for this idea, the birthplace of this idea, I guess.
That's great. And then what was it like to work with them and to actually produce your app?
Yeah, it's really cool because before I used to have all these ideas. I still do have a lot of ideas, and they're just sitting in my notepad. And it's cool seeing the idea change into something tangible. I think that's my like really like cool accomplishment, I would say. So that would be my highlight is just seeing a tangible product coming out of that.
And how many people worked with you to make it, happen?
Yeah, so I'm working with three other UNC Charlotte students right now. It started off with two people, and then we added on one over the April quarantine time, and then we added one recently. So it's a little like steadily growing. So I'm working with three people right
That's great. And so tell people how they can find the app. And I mean, it's going to be out, shortly after this show comes out. So I'm curious. I definitely want to download it as well.
Yeah, yeah. So we're hoping to release it October, like the first week of October. We're still trying to finish up, tie some loose ends right now. If not October, we're trying to like make sure that it's released so that people have enough time to get their mail-in ballots, and the app is very interactive, I would say, or tries to be interactive. So we're trying to at least release it where people have enough time to request a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot and mail it in on time because elections are now, it's not an election day, it's an election season from what I've been hearing. So it's going to be October 20th or something that they need to do all of that in order to get their vote counted in on November 2nd.
What's the name of the app again?
It's called All Vote.
And so one last thing, what would you recommend to other students at UNC Charlotte who are budding entrepreneurs like yourself? And what got you to move from the idea stage to actually putting it in action? What would you recommend people do?
Yeah, honestly, I would just go into Ventureprise. I think Ventureprise has always been like open arm, open door policy. They love having students there. It's honestly a hidden treasure because it's located in all the way across campus in the Portal building. So nobody really knows about it unless you kind of do your own little curious hunting, and that's how I ran into it. Because I was just really curious and I wanted to see the buildings on campus, and I ran into Portal. I was like, this is so beautiful. Like, how does nobody know about this? Because there's nobody there. So something that I would say is just venture out, quite literally venture out, and just start like building whatever you can. Just start tinkering with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like the next Facebook or whatever. Just build something. Like you need to have something to sell it to somebody. So if you have that one customer or like customer, I would say in air quotes, then you have some kind of product going on and you fill their needs. So I would say go for it. Try. If you fail, that's fine because you're learning something.
Happy to welcome on to Career Bits now, Chris Dyer and Thomas Mumford, the co-founders of Undergrads, Students Moving You. And that's a really cool story. So Chris, Thomas, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, Jay, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So let's start with that. Tell us the story of Undergrads and how you guys started it when you were students at Clemson and to where it is today.
So the undergrad story is really an accident turned into what it is today. We went to Clemson from 2013 to 2017, both studied industrial engineering there. And January of our senior year, so 2017, we decided that we were going to start making some money before we graduated. We looked into getting jobs like bartending, working at a restaurant, etc. The issues with that were, number one, they made you work on Saturdays. And anyone who's in college knows that working on Saturdays, especially at Clemson, is a sin, and you just don't want to do that. The other end of that was the pay. If you're working as a restaurant in the restaurant industry, you're making minimum wage plus tips, or even less than minimum wage. And so based off of that, we figured, well, why can't we come up with something to where we can set our own schedule and make more money? At the time, my mom had just recently moved, and I remember seeing the bill and it being astronomical. And I looked at Thomas and I'm like, well, hey, we could probably do this. We're two young guys. We like to think we're somewhat strong, and moving is not that hard. The only issue at the time was we didn't have a truck, and our combined net worth at that time was about $200. So as you can imagine, getting a truck was really out of the question. So we figured, all right, well, maybe people will hire us to come move their stuff, but not bring our own truck. And so we tested that by just simply putting an ad on Craigslist. It's the first marketing we ever did. I know, really in-depth marketing. The ad simply said something like, 2 college kids will come move your stuff for $30 an hour. And that's really all it was. And people started calling us. And so, in class, we'd take calls, or after class, we'd go do moves. And we basically just made it work for that first semester. And then in July or August of 2017, our last semester, we started taking it a little bit more seriously, built out a website, brought on some of our friends to come help us. And then by the end of the semester, we had made $6,000 each. And if you're in college, $6,000 equates to like $600,000 in the real world. So we were living life. At the time, we had both already accepted full-time jobs. Thomas moved up to New York to do venture capital work for Ernst & Young. I moved down to Orlando doing a sales role for UPS. And so we kept the company alive generally just as a way to make some money on the side, help pay for rent, never intending to go full-time. First year, we knocked it out the water, ended up bringing on about 30 of our friends or other people in college to help us out while we were working remote. 2019, we tripled revenue that year and ended up having about 60 guys by the end of the year and had expanded into Greenville. About 3/4 of the way through 2019, we were working 12 to 16-hour days every single day. And it was starting to become to the point where we needed to make a decision, either to sort of scale back the company and focus on our corporate track, or go all in on the company and really leave our jobs. Obviously, what decision we made. So Thomas left his job on Christmas Day. I left my job on January 2nd, and we moved back to South Carolina, moved in with my mom, put our office in her bonus room, lived there for 5 months, and got to work. Since then, we've expanded into Columbia, Charleston, and now Charlotte. We have about 185 movers working for us. And, the sky's the limit at this point.
I talked to a student previously who was at UNC Charlotte who went through you guys did it the really old-fashioned way. You just did it yourselves. What did you learn along the way? They're like, gosh, I wish somebody could go back and tell me in 2017, like I should have known how to do this that I now know that budding entrepreneurs would benefit from.
It's going to be a lot of work. And that's something that we picked up on pretty quick, but we didn't really understand until we got into it, until we left our full-time jobs. We, like Chris was saying, we were doing the 16 and 18-hour days. We were still doing those same 16, 18-hour days, but it was just only laser focused on undergrads. So it's a lot more work than people anticipate. And I think that's why a lot of these early stage startups fizzle out, is because people don't anticipate to put their blood, sweat, and tears into this company. They think, okay, I can do it after work, or I can do it before work, and that's it. I don't have to worry about it on the weekends, and it's something that I can possibly think about every now and then. It's something that you have to think about literally every single second of every single day.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you two guys wanted to start a company where you didn't have to work on Saturdays, and now you probably work every Saturday.
You're the first person that's ever said that, and that's pretty ironic.
That's about the most true statement I've ever heard in my life.
But you make a good point about the work that you have to put into it. So what keeps you going and growing with it? Obviously, you've had a good bit of success with it. The thing has grown. You hired some friends, then you hired a bunch of their friends. It continues to expand. But what keeps you driving and going and pushing forward the bumps that you hit along the road?
It's not our personal and professional growth. It's the growth that we're able to translate over to the movers. watching them grow and have an avenue to commoditize their free time instead of having to go work at a bar until 4 a.m. and potentially not be able to study for their tests. Giving them a schedule-friendly way to make money while they're in school and support themselves and actually graduate on time is probably the most fulfilling thing that we can possibly do. And it's awesome. And now we have 185 guys that we're sitting there supporting all the way through to graduation. And that's amazing.
So, Chris, how did you guys pick the places you wanted to expand into as you built away from Clemson?
So it was honestly pretty calculated. Well, the first one was pretty easy. So Columbia, when we expanded outside of Clemson and Greenville, was because my mom lived there. So we knew that we wanted to be on the ground and actually start a second location ourselves rather than hire someone to do it, so that we could see firsthand what it was going to take to make that happen. And then Charleston and Charlotte were chosen. Charleston first because we wanted to launch into another medium-sized market to continue to figure out how to hone our system in. And then Charlotte's being our first larger market. And that market is just really to test the waters to see how difficult it is to transition our business model from a medium-sized market into a larger market and see if we can still get the business.
This is really cool. I think it's neat, too, that you glossed over it, but both of you were industrial engineers by training. Then you went to work for an accounting firm and one of the biggest logistics firms in the country, and now you run a moving business that doesn't have trucks and doesn't have stuff. I think, but it's just a testament to what we tell students all the time, is that your major is great, but it's not the thing that defines your entire path in life, right?
100%. We're both firm believers that, you go to college to make friends and learn skills. You're not necessarily honing yourself in on one specific major. Like, for example, both of us have agreed that we took industrial engineering because we wanted to learn how to improve processes. And it honestly works out for us in the industry we're in because the entire moving industry is process improvement. If we're going to scale the company, it all comes down to creating a system that is efficient and can scale. And so, whether or not we're industrial engineers or marketing or whatever, the skills we've learned have translated well outside of the area that we should be in.
So I know you guys are hiring. How can people find out about opportunities with Undergrads?
Going onto our website, we're hiring tons of movers. We need movers in every single city that we're in: Charlotte, Columbia, Clemson, Greenville, and Charleston. If you go to a university, tech college, anywhere within those locations, within about 20, 30 miles, give us a contact, apply online. We're also looking for some recruiters. If you think you'd be a good people person, go online to our website and shoot us a contact us or send us an email. We'll be happy to chat.
Fantastic. You guys are both on LinkedIn as well, so look for undergrads.com. One last thing I want to ask you both. Final pieces of advice you would give to aspiring entrepreneurs, innovators out there getting ready to take that next step.
Oh, man, this is the easiest piece of advice we can give anybody. It's 2 simple words, or 3 simple words, just do it. It's so many people talk about wanting to do something and have these great ideas, but just never, pull the trigger. Regardless of whether you keep your full-time job, do it on the side, go all in like we did. You just have to take that first step, and then it all works itself out from there.
Yeah, and a lot of people overcalculate it. So what we did is we just literally put up an ad on Craigslist in the middle of Clemson, South Carolina. If you can imagine what Craigslist looks like in Clemson, South Carolina. So a lot of people get scared and they overcalculate and they think it's not going to work. Well, if you start somewhere, you'll eventually end up where you want to go. It's just how long is that road going to be?
Yeah, it's just taking that first step is the one that matters, right?
Exactly right.
And so there you have it, a good bit of information and resources about entrepreneurship and how UNC Charlotte supports entrepreneurs. You can follow the happenings of the Career Center on our website, career.uncc.edu, or on social media @NinerCareers. Talk to you soon.